And I did pay all my money submitting, trying to get that thing resolved to move forward, including sequel. All that stuff takes a lot of money. And we are moving forward. So, I figured Trevor and the staff would have talked to the city council on 6/20 about it, because they received all the plans and everything. Because I told them I couldn't make it. I was working late setting underground tanks and Goshen project. And anyway, trying to beautify your corner there, get all that stuff how you would like it. And the reason my plans were late on that as well was because my draftsman had caught COVID 2 weeks prior to that. So he had just a few days prior to 6/20 to get it in. And also, I talked to my attorney today. He had talked to Mary Lerner, your attorney, I believe, and about this issue. And I guess they agreed to speak tomorrow on that. And right now, that's, all I'm asking is, give us some time on it. We are moving, and, we're actually looking on getting rid of the 3 poles and making it beautify it with 1 single pole at this time. And that's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mendrin. Do we have any other oral communications at this time?
What's that?
Oh, that's not for you, Mr. Mendrin. We're asking if there's any other public input.
I have to check on that state form, but then I sent everything.
Hi, caller ending in 378. *6 to unmute your line.
On. Okay. With that, we'll bring it back. Special presentations. We do have a consent calendar, which since all items listed under this are considered routine, the complete consent calendar will be enacted by 1 motion roll call vote for purposes of discussion. Any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does any council member or members have an item or items they would like removed tonight from the consent calendar?
Mayor, I'd like to take off item G and item J.
Else have any items they'd like to have removed tonight? I'd like to remove items D, E, and F. Our motion to approve items A through C and H and I.
I'll make a
Is
motion.
there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, item D. I think that's for Acting Chief Garza.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
Okay, so just refresh my memory, if you would, on what this agreement is for.
Sure. So this agreement is to implement a school resource officer at the Selma High School, which would service the 9th through 12th graders.
And the city's going to pay how much of that contract?
The city or the Selma Unified will be paying 50% of the officer's wages, which includes the fully burdened rate.
And then is this a full year? I'm just trying to understand why the city is paying 50% for a police officer that works on the school premises and not for the city. Does the SRO work during the summer, or is the SRO take the summers off and then work for the city the other 6 months?
Yeah, so this is a 10-month contract. The SRO is assigned to summer school, And the 2 months that the students are not in school, that officer is redeployed to the police department, meaning we can deploy that officer, patrol, assign them to detectives, pretty much where we feel the need is necessary for that extra patrolman. But if I could add on this is the school resource officer is dedicated to the school. However, if the school resource officer needs to be deployed during those school hours to assist other needs, the officer can be pulled. But we want that officer to be at the school as much as possible, just because of it's just all the unfortunate events that are happening in the country that have occurred. We want to be able to have that officer ready at any time.
I can't support that enough. That is so important to have an armed response right there, as I think recent events attest to. But I mean, I was reading about Central Unified. They voted to add 2 additional armed officers to the campuses starting next school year. And the school district is paying the $330,000 for both officers there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that the part of the state has a $96 billion surplus this year, and half of that's going to the schools. It's allocated to the schools. And so I guess I'm just wondering, since the city, has a much smaller budget compared to the campus, to the school district, why the city is paying the extra 50%. I know that's a political decision. There's been a vote on that in the past, but I'm just bringing that up so the citizens do know and do note that 50% of this school resource officer will be paid for by the city. All right.
I have a quick question on that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to, has there been any talk, or any conversation with the school if they're going to request another SRO officer for the ALMS?
Actually defer that to the city manager.
Superintendent Shepherd from the school district and I have met about the possibility of adding an additional officer because we recognize that is a need. Though we agreed to revisit that in January at mid-year because at the time we had been losing officers, and so we couldn't guarantee that we could actually staff that position. So we decided to revisit that conversation at a time when we knew that Selma PD would be more fully staffed and we could actually deploy the resources to the middle school for that purpose.
Okay, the only reason I'm bringing this up is your conversation, because I was told by a few parents that do attend the meetings that their budget, which is much larger than our budget, they didn't understand why we're having to pay half for that police officer, the city, which I agree with them because I wasn't in favor of it. Where we have other issues here in the city that we need to take care of for our kids, but we're having to pay for this resource officer. And then they're talking about putting another one at the ALMS. But from what you just stated, they're not going to look at that or they're going to revisit that again in January. I mean, I want to believe that at some point they have to learn how to budget their own finances. And it should be coming out of the school board budget, not the city budget. I mean, Fresno Unified just talked about they're going to possibly put an officer at every school, but they're not asking the city to pay for it. Just my concern.
I just have a quick comment or response. I don't know. I think we're comparing apples to oranges because as very limited buildings that we have to manage and maintain, our employees are a lot less than the school districts. The school district has their district office and then several elementary schools, several teachers, several staff, basically. So we can't compare apples to oranges with the budgets because yes, they might have a bigger budget, but they also have more expenses. And so I was going back and just trying to become, more familiar with what has happened in the past and what were things that were agreed upon or what have you. And in 2019, I want to say it was like September or October of 2019, HCD was here and they talked about, grants. They talked about grants that are available or that may be available. Granted, this was pre-COVID, that are available for school resource officers. And so, there are other means that we could possibly explore, especially with, the budget surplus that we do have. But we have to remember, we can't compare apples to oranges because city staff is a lot less than the district staff. The district staff, they have teachers at every school, they have teachers' aides at every school, they have cooks, they have principals, they have all of this administration, and we have a lot less employees, but yeah, we do have a lot less buildings and operations is a lot less than what the school districts are. So I am full support of the school district, us helping the school district, especially in light of everything that's happening now. And if we're not taking care of our youth in the school, how are we gonna, if we can't be there to mentor them or try to talk to them during the school, how are we going to be able to approach them outside of the school? I think you have to work together, both in, during school hours and after school and, just in the community itself. So I just wanted to add those comments because again, I think part of working together, but I also think that we can't be comparing apples to oranges.
I have a couple of things to say in regards to, first of all, our community is a whole community. The city council, the city of Selma represents the whole community. Anybody that walks off that campus is our kid, our child, our community child. With things that are going on around the nation, it is more important that we advocate to make sure we take care of our kids. I commend you guys for stepping up the effort. Also, as Councilman Navarro stated, maybe it's in our city administration to look into seeing getting grants because yes, we are going to need more supervision. Those kids that walk off those campuses are our kids, our community, those parents that are in that school district, they pay taxes. So we're going to start segregating or looking and pointing out school districts voting and city council voting. We all work together. And the question I have for you is, how's your relationship with this school? How's that been working out with you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, the communication and the collaboration that we have, it's just, from what I'm being told, I don't know if they say this every year, but they say this is the best year that they've had thus far, just based on our relationships and our rapports. And the main thing is the communication. And if I may add, regardless, if we don't put a SRO in the schools, we still have to respond to the school for calls for service, meaning tobacco related and any crime. So we would still have to respond. You're just going to have that ready response. It's just going to be a lot faster.
So thank you. And I really, really commend you guys for having that good communication. And the thing about it is that those kids are our kids when they step off that campus. I fully support working with the school district. We have to be working and engaging every program, anybody we have out there, especially with these times. So if we have to negotiate and talk in the future, well, that's something we'll be talking about. So I thank you for your presentation, and I just fully support the school.
And I'd just like to add as a kind of a coda to this. I too am enthused about the relationship with the school district, especially having that pool provided by the school district for all these years since 2013. That's another great sign of a partnership, but it's a true partnership in that the city went and got a grant and the city pays the school district. The school district bills the city for the use of the pool to maintain that pool for our youth who are students there as well when they step on the campus and when they step off. So that's a partnership where everybody pays their way. And that's what I'm bringing up so it can be looked at and hopefully a grant can be allocated in the future by the school district or someone. And in all fairness, the cost can be allocated equitably on this. Thank you for that, Acting Chief. I have
You're welcome.
another, so okay. Does the public have any input at this point on this item? Do we have anyone on social media? The phone? Okay, so you recommend as our city attorney that we should vote on each, even though we haven't done that in the past,
Consent.
and it's consent. Got you. In the past, we've taken them on block.
Sorry about that. And there doesn't seem to be, I just think it would be wise in this instance to have an individual vote
You're
on each
saying
item.
because of the robust
Discussion.
level of discussion on this
Correct.
consent item, which became an agenda item.
Correct.
And we took as much time as an agenda item on
Correct.
this, that we should vote on it individually.
That's my recommendation.
Got it. Okay, with that, is there a motion to approve or deny this item? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra, I'm sorry, Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
No,
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
No. Item E, resolution rejecting all bids received for the State Water Resources Control Board. I think that's Deputy City Manager Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to hand this over to our contract city engineer, Phil Romero, who will answer questions on this item as he's been the project manager.
Well, Phil.
Great.
All right, great. So I pulled this off tonight because I had a couple of questions. This is rejecting all the bids. So the question, the first question I had on this was why is the time differential? Look at the grant was awarded April 20th. No, I'm sorry, the grant was awarded a couple of years ago, right? And it was not bid out until April of this year. What was the cause of that delay?
That was when we did the transition from the previous city engineer to us. So when we came on board, there were things that were not done with the original grant. So we had to finish up certain documents for the state. So we were in the process of working with the state to get all the information, budgets, getting the plan. All that was completed when we took over was the plans and the specs. So beyond that, we had to finish a lot of detailed information that was not submitted to the state prior to us coming on board for the city.
Okay. When was the previous city engineer terminated? Does anybody recall?
I believe it was around March or April of 2021.
How long generally, Phil, does it take for a grant to get the paperwork done for it to apply for public monies like this?
It depends on the grant. This grant specifically had a lot of detailed information that they wanted because it has to do with stormwater runoff. So there was a lot of detailed reports that they wanted included with this one. So it was just the biggest time thing was the time constraint was just during the transition
Got it.
process.
So we're going to allocate the responsibility to the previous city engineer that wasn't taken care of earlier. Is that correct? Before you came on?
I can answer that. Rather than allocating the responsibility, there was just a gap between the work that could be done prior to getting full approval to move forward with the bid process. So Yamabe and Horn engineers came on board to finish that process.
Okay. So that was the reason then for the delay.
There were other issues with the plans that had previously been drawn up by the previous engineer that Yamabe and Horn helped rectify. But in general, it was just a transition period.
issues with the previous engineer's plans then too. Okay. And then I'm looking at this engineer estimate of 1.6 million for this job, and the lowest bid came in at 2.1 million. What was the reason for that discrepancy?
That is hard to say. We didn't prepare the original budget. That was with the previous city engineer. We just kind of took that information. Actually, we revised it up a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, the original grant was started in 2018, 2019. The contract, the agreement was signed, I think, in 2020, if my memory serves me.
Right.
So it's just some time. And right now, the prices in 2022 are just skyrocketing, unfortunately. So I think that's the biggest reason. It's just the cost of construction, pipe, everything else is just skyrocketing right now.
It's expensive to bid these jobs out though too, right? It's expensive. Takes a
Right
lot of
now.
your time, a lot of city time, a lot of city resources.
I mean, the actual bid process is not
Okay.
expensive.
Okay.
It's just getting things in the paper. City staff does most of it.
Okay.
So once we have the plans and the specs, that's the hard part. Putting out to bid is really not a big ordeal.
And then the big picture on this is, where does this fit in with the current recharge agreement with CID, which mandates the city to have this in place, right? To get that water out to the storm basin?
I believe that is a part of disconnecting from our runoff going into the CID ditches.
Right.
And so this process will take it from going to the CID ditch and it'll go into the Valley View Storm Drain Basin, which is city owned. So that's the main, I think, premise behind this project, the disconnect from CID, which they want, which the city wants, and then the city will maintain the drainage themselves.
I believe there's a timeline for that disconnect to make sure that water gets disconnected from those ditches. Has CID been consulted about this so that there aren't any, breach issues or contractual penalties? And if so, what did CID say about the potential delay in making sure that, this takes care of the water getting removed from there?
We'll have to reach out to CID to confirm that. I mean,
I remember that was a big part of that recharge agreement. That was a big
Right.
part of the city responsibility to get this done.
right. And one of the big reasons why we reject these bids is because the city didn't have the additional funds, the $700,000 plus for this project from the original grant amount. And then during the process, working with the city to get additional funds from the state, the contractor would not hold, they only held their prices for 30 days. So at that point, talking to the state took a little longer, so we had to put the project out to rebid. But we've been working with the state. We still have the project getting done by the end of next year at the latest. But now we're just working on getting additional funds from the state.
So I would ask you, city manager, just let's make sure that recharge agreement's being honored. We don't have any breach issues with it, with CID, because I know this is a big element of it. It seems pretty understandable why the delay is happening, but we talked about communication earlier in partnership. Let's just make sure, because we certainly don't want to go through another 7 years of no commercial development because of a problem with CID like we did back in the day. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And is there any public comment on this item at this time? Do we have any council comment on this item? We have anybody in phone, Zoom? Okay, that will bring it back. Is there a motion to approve this item or deny?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, item F, resolution approving the master salary schedule, reflecting an increase to the chief of police and non-safety paramedics positions.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This fairly straightforward item. As you might recall, the council voted to increase the salaries in the police department specifically for police officers, sergeants, and commanders. This has caused a fair amount of compaction between particularly the commander salaries and the previously approved range for the police chief position, primarily because commanders are eligible for a variety of incentives according to their MOU, which brings their salary, their take-home pay significantly higher than what it otherwise would be without those incentives. So it became necessary because the police chief is not eligible for those incentives to be able to create that space. And this is an issue that comes up frequently when you're adjusting compensation at all departments and levels. And so we are looking to increase the range, the existing approved range for the police chief position, so that we don't have that compaction occurring. Because then you have a situation where, let's say a police chief leaves at some point down the line, and nobody from the lower ranks wants to step into that role because it would be a pay cut for them, right? So we're trying to avoid that. And then the other item with regard to the non-safety paramedic salary, this was a clerical error in the previous adopted master salary schedule where the council approved the increases. It was just never reflected in the actual schedule itself.
That was just a typo then. Okay. Does council have any comment on this time? So the question I have is, just going through 10 budgets so far, the police chief's salary has always been commensurate with the fire chief's salary. And I look back through the budget and it looks like with this increase, there's going to be more towards the police chief's salary. So I just wanted to bring this up to see if there's going to be any look at the fire chief salary for the future to make sure that there is parity there, because they're both, equally valued professionals doing really important work for the city.
100%. We would look at that. It's also a function of the size of the departments. And I think council's aware that a compensation study is being conducted at the moment. I mean, we're really close to finalizing that and bringing it to council for adoption. The fire chief salary specifically is going to be dependent on how much those salaries increase for the command staff for the fire department division chiefs. Those have recently been updated as well. So fire department has usually been more up to date with their salaries, particularly because they're a bit of a smaller department, but now with the EMS side growing, certainly requires another look. But we recently increased the police chief salary with the adopted budget. So now it's a matter of looking at where the firefighters come in with the compensation study and seeing if adjustments are necessary. There's nothing hard and fast that requires those two salaries to be the same. We're not looking at that. We're just looking at actual structure and what's best for each department individually.
Right. And I'm just looking at the custom in the past. They've been pretty similar. And like you say, the fire department is growing. It's added ambulance, EMS, paramedics. We're adding a new fire station, hopefully sooner than later. And, the fire chief is getting more and more responsibility there. So I am all for increasing salary for the police chief and getting someone really talented. At the same time, I'm all for paying everybody what they should get to and keeping parity where there should be parity. So thank you for that.
I have something to say. I commend the council for doing the compensation study, which will reflect the master plan salary. Going back, and Mr. Mayor, you stated you were here for 10 years, 10 budgets, but having a $23 million surplus for the last 13 years or 10 years, where our city staff were getting paid under their pay. And that's the reason why our budget reflects increasing our police department's pay, which will have to reflect our police chief to be compensated. I think that this is really important, and I'm happy you pulled it, because these are things that are very important that we have to start talking about. We can say that we want to compensate our employees, but having a surplus of $20+ million and paying our fire department and our police department probably second to last compared to, Orange Cove. These studies and these approvals, these are very important for our city. And think of this, $20+ million surplus, and our staff was getting paid at a very low rate. And now we're asking to approve the police chief. I 100% support it. And this is almost amazing. It's amazing, but it's a new day. We're going to be moving this community, and we're going to make sure our staff's compensated correctly.
Council members, items, anybody from the public? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, well, we'll bring that back and I really congratulate Councilman Trujillo on having an advanced view of the salary comparison schedule because he seems to know how the salaries compare exactly with the other departments. City Manager, did you share that with just Councilman Trujillo or is that study been done?
There is no, it hasn't been drafted or finalized.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that was conjecture on the part of Councilman Trujillo. Thanks for your opinions. All right, we'll bring that back. Is there a motion on the resolution approving a revision in the master salary schedule relating to chief of police and non-safety paramedic position? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item G, resolution approving a memorandum of understanding agreement. Oh, sorry, that's Councilman Garris.
That's
With
okay.
that, I'll end up and I will pass it off to Councilperson Garrett.
Hey, Commander Chief, I just have a quick question. I was reading this and it's really intrigued. I'm very proud to say that our city has partnered with the Family Healing Center, but I would just like you to elaborate and give me some information in regards to this.
Sure. So I worked detectives for 12 years, worked a lot of investigations. Unfortunately, I worked a lot of sexual assault investigations and domestic violence investigations where it involved children. The Family Healing Center is a safe place where we can take children who can be interviewed by what they refer to as a forensic interviewer. And these children are interviewed in a setting where it's recorded and they're being interviewed by someone who's specially trained in interviewing children. And on the other side of the room, there's a monitor where the detective, the lead investigator, and a representative of the district attorney's office and also social services is present and viewing this interview. And it's for one, to validate and the investigation. And number two, it's so that the child doesn't have to go through these constant interviews after interview after interview because it can be traumatizing. And what they do with that is they take that to court and hopefully the child does not have to interview or have to be taken to court where they're asked a bunch of questions by a defense attorney. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. It used to be referred to as a MDIC, Multidisciplinary Interview Center, but it just turned into the Family Healing Center. And there's just a lot of advantage for this for our investigators because it's for our police officers as well. When we come across these cases and the children are so young, the officers just pretty much, if it's something where the child's in a safe place, we'll wait for the MDIC, the interview to be scheduled, which is about 3 to 4 days out. But normally, the way I like to explain it to people is, do you want an officer interviewing this small child, the officers who's 6'1", who weighs about 200 pounds because all they do is lift weights, versus you take them to this nice, quiet setting where they're in an environment where they feel at ease and less intimidated. So that's pretty much what the Family Healing Center is. And I'm actually glad that you pulled it because it's good for the community to know what resources and other partnerships that we have that are out there. I hope that answered your question. I know.
I just wanted to mention, it's just something that, we really need to look at. And I was so glad that this was on our agenda or on consent, because when I met with the community officer Cuevas, she
Yes.
explained to me the amount of cases that we have here in Selma. And I have also been involved with the Marjorie May Center in regards to the battered women and women being violated and their children. And we talked about a service, maybe something that would happen, we can have that here in Selma as well, because she stated to me the cases that we have, and people don't know. because it's not something that people want to come out with, you know?
Right.
But I'm glad that we have this partnership. And is this with the county of Fresno?
No, it's a nonprofit.
Profit?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a nonprofit, and they also have what they refer to as forensic nurses.
Mhm.
So the nurses will actually come out to our crime scenes or to our facility and do forensics on the suspects as well. And it's a great partnership, and they'll actually also take photographs for us for victims of domestic violence, adults as well. So they're trained and they're able to do that in a private setting. So it's in my opinion, it's a win-win situation for everyone, and it just kind of calms the storm down a little bit, just because of the traumatic, the trauma that they're going through, the victims.
Now, is that something that's here in Selma?
No, it's in Fresno. It's in Fresno. We provide the transportation. The children are actually transported with their parents with social services. They come down and it's very well organized. It's orchestrated where, there's someone always there with the child, and we make sure that all the resources are available. And they get more resources over there if they need aid or need to put them in different housing. It's an awesome program.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
You're welcome.
I just have questions. As I was reading this, because I'm actually violence against women's coordinator through my work. So I deal with a lot of, these that come through. And so I am not anywhere near qualified finding them with, alternative housing if possible. Do you know if they work with other cities? I mean, I know it's in Fresno, you said, but do you know if they have partnerships with other cities?
Oh, they have partners with every agency in the county, I believe. They're pretty busy, unfortunately, but it's a good service. But every city utilizes them, from Sanger all the way to, the city of Fresno, Clovis PD, Orange Cove Police Department, Bellier Police Department. It's, they have partnerships all over the county. Absolutely.
Oh, I definitely will.
Sure, absolutely.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Anybody on Zoom? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll make a motion.
Is
to
there a
approve.
second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay. Item J.
Okay, I have one on page 64, and that is check number 79729. Elvon Settlement Recovery Credit Card Fee in the amount of $1,259.70. What was that for?
I can take a stab at it, and Special Projects Manager Boyd can correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the fees that we pay to our credit card processing company for payments that are received on site at the city.
But why does it say settlement recovery?
It's the transaction settlement. So whenever a transaction clears, it's a technical term. So yeah, it's just their cut of the payments that we receive.
Got one. Up the page. 79691 AC Electric pole damage tying second. Did the city recover damages for the vehicle that hit that pole? Was there a vehicle that hit that pole? That caused the lights go on?
That's my understanding. I'm not sure where the process is with our RMA. Human Resources Manager, Arias, do you know what the status of if the claim has been filed for that poll?
How long ago was this?
I believe
roughly a month ago.
I'll have to check on that.
We'll follow up, Mayor.
Because there are cameras there. I would think that you know who did it. There be recovery potential for this. Another vehicle caused it. Okay, thank you. And then one last item on the Cal card. Those uniforms, the T-ball uniforms, this is for Director Kirschner, uniquely yours, T-ball uniforms. Was that Kaiser grant? Where did that come from?
What page is that?
It is page 70.
Yeah, Mayor, T-ball uniforms are paid to children, pay a fee. And then part of that fee covers the uniforms, hats, and shirts. In addition, every year we get $1,500 from me and Ed's. And so that helps offset the cost also.
Got it. So the 3170 isn't completely paid by the city. You get it from the parents and you get it from the Me and Ed's grant.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
All I have. Anybody else have anything on the check register? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, no public hearings are scheduled, so we'll move on to the regular business calendar. Item 1.2 is considering the resolution of intention to establish the Selma Downtown Business Improvement District pursuant to the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you guys are aware, since about 2020, the city has been working with Jan from AMI and the downtown business owners to get this business improvement district formed. We have gone through open houses, we've knocked on doors, we've had focus groups, we've done everything that we can do to work with the business owners in the downtown area and help them develop this business improvement district. What you guys have in front of you is an actual resolution to form. We will then have to take that in 45 days to be able to actually form that. And you also have the management district plan. That management district plan is basically the playbook for this downtown BID. This is important because this will give them everything that they need to operate. Obviously, as you guys are aware, with the Downtown Business Improvement District, we want to give this advisory board, we want to give the downtown business owners an opportunity to advocate for themselves and the needs that they have down there. This fee that we assess will actually go back directly into their initiatives. This is very important to what we do because, as you know, the more buy-in we can get from the business owners, the better that this program will run. So with this, we have gone through, we have identified some of the needs that we have. Of course, anything that they advise to you guys as a council will be your final approval. They do not have the authority to final approve anything. It still would have to come back to council. You guys would approve the budget, you guys would approve any initiatives and such. So while they do have the authority to give their advice, ultimately it does fall on the responsibility of the council to approve items that they may choose to want to invest in. So what we are looking for today, like I said, is to get approval of the resolution of intent so we can move forward with this. And then also the approval of this management district plan. You guys do have the ability, if you would like to make any changes at this time, because once this is approved today, it will go out with all of the documents that are needed. So we want to have a nice solid management plan to disperse to the downtown business owners. I am open to any questions if you guys have them. I think we're all pretty familiar with it all.
Do you have any questions at this time? We have Jan Manami here, who really is the consultant who developed this and implemented it. If you wanted to say anything, Jan?
I would just like to thank all of you for being so supportive of this as it goes through the process. I know many of you have downtown businesses and you'll be part of this once it's formed. And I think I really commend you for getting it started. And I think I've talked with maybe 40 different people in the downtown area. And I really think there's a lot of support for this. I think there's some really exciting ideas that I really look forward to seeing what the advisory board is going to recommend to you for budget and for specific expenses. I think the process is run very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this, and seeing it through.
And on that note, I think I do want to take a minute and thank City Manager and Tracy, who's no longer employed by the city, but they did a tremendous amount of work to make this happen. This was not an easy process. So I know Tracy, if any of you talk to her, please send her my thanks. I mean, she made this job so easy for me. So I do appreciate her work on this.
And I saw you going from business to business, reminding folks to sign up for this. So thank you for that. Thank you for your commitment. And I did have a question. I don't see any member lists or any prospective lists for the advisory council. Does that come later or?
So in an effort to try to streamline things, I was hoping to be able to present that. And I wanted to have that option if I did have it ready. However, we're still collecting applications. We still had a few people that contacted me after this date and had interest in employing. So in an effort to be fair to all of them, I wanted to make sure that we wait until the next, until the actual formation to bring that to you.
I did have a question about the roughly the 25,000 that gets
Yes.
levied. So what happens then? The city has, an economic department, I'm talking to her, you are the
I've met
implementer, right? And you assist businesses, you work with the EDC. I saw that a major use of this money that the advisory board receives through the business owners goes towards marketing. What kind of marketing what's happened in the past? Would the BID hire another company, another consultant to come up with brochures that are just downtown specific?
Absolutely. I mean, really, the sky's the limit. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about this is that the advisory board really can come up with any ideas that specifically fit their needs. So if another marketing consultant was needed, they could absolutely come in. We could use that money to not only pay for the consultant, but any printing fees, distribution, mailings, anything that we needed to do, they absolutely could. In addition to that, we can start looking at additional events in the downtown area. As you guys know, events cost money. It's not cheap. So some of this money, and that does qualify for marketing because the more foot traffic we can get in the downtown area, the better. I have partnered with downtown districts who have done events and then, whether it's pop-up shops, but then they've partnered with the businesses, the brick and mortar businesses to increase the foot traffic. So really the great thing about this is we get to put that money directly into the downtown area. It does not affect their baseline services. So any service that they're currently getting is not affected. It doesn't take away from that. It's not going to, they're not going to have to pay for things that they haven't had to in the past. But it does give us the ability to be flexible with the needs of our downtown area. I do like to take ideas from other areas, but obviously we're here to do what's best for Selma and Selma's downtown. And this does give us that ability.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments at this time?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, as a business person, how are you setting it? The fees or the percentage? How do you figure that out?
Yes, so the fees for this, every business within that map, within your guys' packet, you should have received a map. They will be required to pay 100% of their business license. So whatever their fee is annually, it will essentially be doubled. Not for any admin fees, any additional fees, but their business license fees. If you are currently a business in the downtown area and you do not pay a fee, whether you're a nonprofit or some of the other reasons you might not, it's $100 flat fee. So the number that we have given you is an estimate off of current or what was previously recorded. There's no for sure in any of this, but it will be collected when their business licenses are renewed. So it will be on their annual, and that's how we will collect it.
Okay, thank you.
So the business advisor, sounds like it comes down to how motivated the business advisory group is too.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's important to know anytime we're starting something new, the interest is going to be there. But the beauty in this is as we grow it, obviously the excitement grows. Sometimes people are hesitant. It's a city function. We're not sure how it operates. But the more that we can start to deliver, the more excitement that this will generate. And we naturally see it grow from there. Absolutely.
And I saw the group will be subject to the Brown Act.
100%. Because this is collected, yes, this is funds. We have to subject them to the Brown Act. They have to follow those rules, and they will be given that training as well.
Publicly noticed, will the meetings take place here in City Hall? Has it been decided?
That has not yet been decided up to this point, but of course, anywhere where they were going to be held would have to be open and available to the public in accordance with
Absolutely.
all the Brown Act rules.
For AB 361, will it be Zoomed as well? That'll be a ways down the. we
You know,
might
that
not
that
have
hasn't
by
been
that time.
discussed specifically yet as well, but I would imagine that that would likely be the intent as still appropriate.
That's an
If
issue.
AB 361 is still applicable at the time, we would make it available.
And then have you received a number of applicants?
We
for
have,
the-
yes, we've got a good handful of applicants. And like I said, I did receive even a call today with someone that is interested. So the great thing is word starts to spread. We have been working on this project for a while. So now that we're here, people are getting very excited. And it's been, as you've seen, walking around and talking to the business owners, it's exciting to see their excitement start to build. So yes, we are currently getting as many applicants as possible so that we can make the best choices possible.
I have a couple of questions. First of all,
Yes.
congratulations to all you for all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you.
Being a business owner in downtown, will the BID also gather information and start talking about maybe, I guess, I want to use, I'll just say it, color coordination. I mean, is that entail also, or?
As far
facades
as
and looking at-
like branding our downtown area, is that what you're looking at or?
Well, I actually don't know what I'm
Okay.
asking is, what is aside of the goal for the BID? I'm a business owner. I'm investing in my business. What is the BID gonna do or actually entail in discussion with all the business owners of our downtown? Are we looking at to get color coordinated, or is that part of the process? Or
It
is
can
or
absolutely
is
be
it
part
just
of the process.
Because we're just seeking advertising and revenue and increasing revenue. foot
No, I go back to the BID, the beauty in this is it can be anything that our downtown area needs it to be. So if we're looking at, I'm a marketing person, I'm a branding person. I like things to look nice. I like to have I like to have some flow. I like to have those sort of things. So if we need to do, whether it's, facade grants where we start to look at this sort of things, these are all things that we can identify. Now, as within specific businesses and what they can and can't do, that unfortunately would have to fall under, city management, how we would proceed on that. But we definitely want to get a branded message out there and start to make the improvements to our downtown area. And that can be done in a wide variety of ways for us.
Thank you.
Jan, did you have anything?
I just wanted to remind everyone that this is renewed by the city council once a year. So the advisory board will prepare a budget and recommendations for an ongoing advisory board, and they will bring it to you every year. And as long as it's funded, it continues to operate. So you have that say once a year.
Thanks for that.
Amy, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Just with what we wanted to see downtown, and what Councilmember Trujillo has mentioned in regards to the color coordination. This has come up, I would say, at least about 6 years ago, that they wanted to do it. And I mentioned this before. They wanted to do a color scheme, maybe do maybe just 3 colors, and start with, just a few of the streets to see if we can do that. And I understand you want to do marketing and brochures, and that's great, but from the feedback that I receive from other building owners and business owners is that they want to see something, because this has been ongoing. I mean, we've talked about this for years and nothing's happened. So that's what they want to see. That's why they weren't very, I would say, probably supportive, because they want to see it now. They don't want to say, oh, okay, well, you're going to send, I could pay somebody to do my marketing, I can. So that's what we want to see. We want to see the improvement in regards to the facade or the color schemes, or, someone's got a broken awning that won't replace it because it's not, it's the building owner that won't do it. The tenant says, I can't do it. It's up to them. Those are the things that we want to see replaced. So it beautifies our downtown.
Mhm.
So is that going to, and I'm just going to come out and say it, is this going to happen right away? I mean, because that's what they wanna-
Absolutely. So The advisory board, the direction that council sets is the direction of priorities that we can set with the advisory board. Absolutely. There is, I never want to say it's going to happen right away because I obviously don't have the authority to make that happen. But what I have seen historically with these BIDs is because the business owners take ownership of this program, things do get done quicker because it is their money. It is their downtown area. It is what they want. They help set that. That's why it's critical that we have downtown business owners as a part of this advisory board rather than opening it up to the public. We want to do what is best for the business owners. So yes, some of those things we want to take care of really quickly. Maybe some of the easy things, and sometimes the marketing side is a start to get there because sometimes some of those other projects can take time. But again, it's at the advisory boards to be able to set and give you their recommendation, and then ultimately council gets to decide where it goes from there. So my answer is, while I can't predict the future, I have seen things move much faster because it is the business owners that are taking ownership of the programs.
I have a question, and I don't think I'm going to direct the question to you. I'll direct it to Mary. In regards to the BID and the fact that it's going to be coming back to us, I've always stayed back and not voted and thought about where you have 3 individuals that own buildings here that are going to be doing approval on enhancement. How's that going to work?
Well, so my recommendation would be to email the FPPC if you feel like you have a conflict. If something's going to substantially increase your business monetarily, maybe get approval from the FPPC. I will note, though, that you can't just have a verbal conversation with them and then rely on the information from them. You have to get it in writing if you want to be able to rely on it in the future. That's my best recommendation because I think it could potentially be project specific, but
I state that because of the fact that you have council members here and mayor that we own buildings, but at the same time, we have the love for Selma and what we want to do. And I appreciate Councilwoman Guerra bringing up the color coordination because here I am for the last 2 years working on my building and I'm looking around saying, well, what are we going to do? Right? Because we have the look of what we're going to do. So all these questions need to be answered. And, I really appreciate everything. The BID is very important. It's going to be an economic thrust to our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're actually voting to pay money on this. We're not voting to receive money on this. So the FPPC just needs to
correct,
be.
yeah. But if you
be
did have
aware
a
that-
question, that's the agency you would go
Right.
to.
They're the ones that
But
would
the fact is
rule on
once
that.
we approve something that's going to enhance the facade of somewhere else, it's going to enhance our profit. That is an issue.
Hope.
And
We hope. This has been in the works for 10 years and this has been a long process and we're just getting here. So not going to be overnight, but what's really cool is we have this opportunity now. We haven't had before. We have a downtown is going to be a group themselves, right? To be able to come to council and to be able to talk about the issues that are just facing downtown. And in the meantime, we've been doing things with the downtown for 10 years, like the Veterans Park, really cool. It's too bad Whitson is not part of the BID, but the Veterans Park is. And that's a real draw along with that art center. And so the restaurants and the nightlife and the buildings, there's definitely something in the air. Definitely things are building. I did have some input from a couple people on the advisory board, saying, don't just bring the same people in. Selma's the same people on every board, every time, every organization. Bring some new people in, bring some new, fresh voices. We heard earlier from a council member, it's a new day in Selma. Let's get some new voices on this advisory council and push this business district where it's never gone before. That's what we need. And that's what we have the opportunity to do. And on council, that's what we have the opportunity to vote in on September 19th. If we have that list then.
Yes, absolutely.
Did the public have any issues on this coming up?
Teresa Sala, 1701 Danube Avenue. Is this mandatory? You're voting for this district. Are all of the businesses in this district then obligated to participate? if the assessment that you're going to be doing, in essence, doubling their business licenses, are they have to do that if this is approved?
All for one, one for all. Yes.
And so then if the advisory board says, okay, we want everybody's building to be painted blue or green or, color coordinated, whatever.
Well, it'd be blue tonight because we're blue.
So then that owner of that business would be required to put that money in to paint their building blue then.
Remember, Ms. Salas, that it has to come to council. Everything that advisory council does is not unilateral. They don't change the law overnight. They have to bring it to council and the council has to look at it. And I would imagine with building code changes, that would be, the planning commission would be involved. It'd be a big process.
But you
on that.
just yourself said that 3 of you are business owners. So if 3 of you out of the 5 vote to do this, you're obligating somebody to do that who may not be in a financially stable position as your established businesses are. Because you're trying to get people into the downtown. I understand that. But if I'm a new business and right off the get-go, you're telling me you're going to double my business license fee and now I have to paint my building and I have to do this. And I'm just wondering how much of a deterrent that would be for somebody who was interested in moving into the downtown area.
Take a ride through High Street on your way home tonight and see we've got work to do. And if I was looking to.
Oh, no,
rent
I think
space,
it's
it would
a wonderful
improve and
idea.
enhance, as the city attorney said, you got to talk to the FPPC because it could really enhance the economic value of working downtown. So yeah, there could be costs associated with that. Just like when you plant a plant, you have to buy seeds for that plant to come up and grow your tomatoes and eat your tomatoes. You have to put money in order to get money out of this downtown. And that's really what
I
think the city
understand that,
council
and
is looking at that.
it sounds like a wonderful idea. I'm just thinking of the people at the lower end of the economic scale that are just getting started, and then you're hitting them with more fees or mandatory improvements that you're saying that they have to do in order to be in that.
Yeah, I hope that there's some new business owners on the advisory council.
Can I say something really quick? I wouldn't look at it as a business owner in downtown. I would not look at it as a fee. I would look at it as an investment because our community has lacked the investment. And it's all going to be on our BID board to make sure that a business owner understands what it's getting itself into when it gets into the BID. But we have to sell this to the community. I, as a business owner, am investing blind, right? But I'm saying blind because I have no one else around trying to clean the facade, and we all have to invest in our community. So I just share that. I just think that it's really big. It's not a fee, it's an investment.
Yeah,
I
it
look at
just,
it-
like I said, that was just something that I was thinking of while you were all talking about the mandatory things that are going to be, just how is that going to impact somebody who may not have the resources to be able
I see
to.
it's potential negative, but the advisory council could also come up with a little seed fee too, of a little
That would be,
$2,500.
that would be
fund
helpful
help
to get
people out.
somebody
Jan, did
to
you have-
encourage people. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Salas, appreciate it. Jan, did you have an issue?
The bid law allows you to exempt new businesses for a year.
Okay.
It isn't in the management district plan, but it is something that you could add. It's, if you need, do you need the reference?
Sure.
It's, the bid law is 36,500 to 36,550 of the Division 18 parking, Part 6 parking and business improvement area law of 1989.
Got it.
And 36,531 says the council may exempt a business recently established in the area from the levy of the assessments for a period not to exceed 1 year from the date the business commenced operating in the area. The council shall state its determination to so exempt new businesses in the resolution of intention to establish the area and shall reaffirm its determination annually in the resolution of intent required to be adopted pursuant to section 36,534. So you could make that change now if you want.
Our new business owner.
That's really good to know. Those are really good items to be aware of. How could our advisory panel, be aware of really helpful items like that in the government code? Good
I,
information. Get a consultant like you who knows what's going on.
sure. No, I think this is something that needs to be included in the resolution of intent. So if this is something you want to have, and it's not an advisory board decision, it's a council decision. So if this is something you want to do for this year, then it needs to be, you need to make a decision. I don't know the legal stuff on this. You have a resolution in front of you. It would need to be added to the resolution that you have in front of you, and that would then be adopted tonight.
Seems like a good thing. Good point. Yeah, help the businesses that are just starting out.
First years.
1 year or less in business.
Sounds like it can't be more than 1 year, but it could be less
can.
than 1 year.
It could. Yeah, it just
Do
says
you
not
offer
more than
that?
one.
Does the city offer that for business licenses too?
No, new businesses are required to pay a business license fee.
Question, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or if we have to ask for counsel, but do you know if that is this a discretionary law or is it a mandatory law? What you just gave us.
It says the council may.
Okay, so it's discretionary.
Yeah.
But it's a good, I mean,
We would have to approve it though.
Yeah,
For it
Right,
to
someone could
apply.
make a motion to approve the items in the plan with that change as noted by the consultant.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to say at this time? Do we have anybody on phone, Zoom? Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to council. Is there a motion
I'll make a motion
with the
With-
modification
with the modification that our consultant just stated.
to waive fees for the first year for businesses that have been in business
For
1
the
year or
new
less?
business. Yeah.
Do we have to reference the code 36531?
No, it was as stated by the consultant.
Okay, as stated. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, all right, thank you. Next item is consideration of a draft capital improvement plan project list for council consideration and discussion. Report.
Let me start that again. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Rob Terry, Deputy City Manager. The item before us tonight is the official draft CIP list that we're bringing to council for your consideration at this time. As you know, along with the budget approval that was on June 20th of 2022, there was an amount of $2.7 million that was identified for street maintenance. And staff had stated at that time that we would bring back a draft project list for council's consideration. That list is now what is in front of you here today. The list of projects was formulated utilizing the city's pavement management system. So the data behind that, there is a map also associated with that that shows what that network looks like and highlights of the various projects that are being recommended here. Staff is recommending that there are 5 projects that are listed here to be funded. In addition, I do want to point out that there is a 6th project that is identified in the event that if any additional funding is identified or becomes available, that we could have 1 project in the queue to add to that list as well. It should also be noted that there are 3 additional projects that are notated on the map, all of them up in the central northern area of the city, and all with notations that state pulverize in place, which is the process or the improvement process that would be done there. Those are identified on the map. However, they're not listed. The reason why is because of the cost of those. All 3 of them together exceed over $1.5 million in cost there. So the other projects that are identified on the map are what are being recommended by staff to officially have as our capital improvement project list. And then that gives staff direction, if approved by council, to go after these projects here with the $2.7 million that was identified and already approved by council within the budget. So that concludes my presentation. Myself and the contract city engineer are happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Thanks for your report. Does council have any questions for Deputy City Manager or the city engineer?
Yeah, I have some questions. I just was looking at the streets and the projects that you guys are stating, but how did we come to these streets? You know, how did these streets get approved? The only reason is because I'm looking at a few of these and they're all pretty much, some of them are in the same area. And I'm just curious. I mean, because, you know, we all represent a different district. And it would have been nice to know if we would have had like public hearings or a public comment, maybe people, there's issues and I think in everybody's district and we could have shared the cost, you know, or the repairs for their streets, our streets, everybody's, you know, I'm just, that's just my suggestion. I was thinking maybe we could have, because some of these streets I look at and I think, God, didn't we just repair a few of these before? And we keep coming back to them. So that's just my opinion.
And city engineer can give his information on how they came up with the projects.
Yeah, Mayor, Council. Basically, we don't have the history here. So we based a lot of our decisions on the pavement management system. What that system is, you put information in that tells you what streets are the worst to the better streets. We tried to, with our budget amount, try to pick projects that were the worst streets. And we did try to spread them out through the city as best as we could, working with the budget amount we had. Now, again, this is our first year getting the projects going. You know, we can get 10, 15 projects if we had the money. So this is a continuing thing. So again, in my opinion, if, you know, we want to start these projects and then yes, we want to make sure the whole city is covered. And so when we move forward for next year, we want to make sure that every part of the city is covered because we know, you know, our job is to fix every street, but that's going to take a lot of time. So it's just our best effort to spread the projects around using the worst streets as they come. So
I have a question. Sorry. And this question is to Rob. In regards to this, what we're talking about in our future, will we be creating a master street plan with 5 to 10 year where we can look at using the software where we could start thinking about maybe increasing the amount of streets we'll be repairing? And I understand, you know, money's the crucial element of what gets repaired. But I believe that one thing we've been lacking in our community is master plans to know the longevity of how long a street's been going and what streets have been, you know, allocated that money for repair, but at the same time, having a true picture as what the need is. And the question is, will we be having that in the future?
Yeah, that's absolutely the goal from the staff level, is to get to the point where you're able to look out further and further. And the amount of projects that you're able to address is actually going to increase because you have really estimated out so far that now the maintenance that you're putting into each individual street project is happening earlier than it had historically, which means it costs less because you're addressing it before it becomes a major issue. So you're doing items, you know, like a slurry seal or a cap seal or something of that nature, as opposed to a full pulverization and a reconstruction, right? I mean, significant amounts of savings. So absolutely that is the goal. Right now, it's using the money that we have and doing what we can with those that grade the worst at this point within the constraints of those dollars. And having then daily consistent work to try to get to that point where your estimations are better and better and better going further out, and you have better plans, better master plans, and longer term CIPs.
Yeah. So in regards to that, I know that when we talked about it, actually implemented the pavement management system, they had talked about that you could actually calibrate that system to make sure that you could look at the usage. And are you guys getting familiar with the software as best or?
Yes, as many of those items as can be implemented right now are. That also includes the inclusion of our GIS system and the various metrics that can go into that as well. Then, of course, when you even have items like traffic counts, right? Traffic counts, then they can
That's
go
important.
back and they can validate the estimations that you had. Are you actually seeing that type of movement? Are you seeing more movement? Are you seeing less movement? And then you can calibrate your CIPs based upon that. And just refine your estimates is really the goal.
Right, thank you guys.
I have a question. So I just learned about Measure C. We'll be able to use some of that money coming in for, it says roads and streets of the cities.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, we have several projects that are within current Measure C list and the proposed Measure C reauthorization as well. Typically, you're going to see those are regional projects because Measure C is a regional program, but there are funding metrics as well that also assist with other local projects and local programs. So we do everything we can to utilize every penny of Measure C that we can in this community, and we'll continue to do so. I know the mayor is very, very active on the COG board there and very well versed in those items and making sure that our community's getting as many dollars as we can.
Thank you.
Speaking of, what are the funds where the 2.7 million came from?
Philip, do you want to cover that? Because it isn't an amalgamy. I mean, it's
Measure
not
C,
just from one
LTF.
program, right? That's total dollars. So to really break that down, I'd have to go back into the budget and take a look. But that is all of the transportation eligible dollars being put into one pot. And then obviously, as these projects were being looked at, making sure that those projects are eligible within those funding programs as well.
That's always the challenge with the CIPs, isn't it? Because a lot of these dollars are very specific in terms of what they can be used for. Like we've been talking about the alleys for a long time. How'd the alleys get paved the last time? Who came up with CMAQ funding?
Yeah.
You know, they got creative, and it's just really difficult to come up with sometimes ways to spend this. You know, you have the plan for it, but then it comes down to being really interpretive and coming in and getting that. And that's the human element. And I think that's what I want to address here and echo Council Member Guerra that, you know, it's more, these roads are more than, you know, kind of a bloodless, you know, indication on a pavement management index. These are roads that our citizens drive on every day. Gas is expensive. No one wants their cars to have to drive on roads that, you know, increase the wear and tear on them. So it's really critical right now. And I probably get more comments about roads than anything else in Selma and alleys. You know, so this is really, really critical stuff right here, what we do on the city council and helping our citizens out. And I echo Council Member Guerra's request for more public involvement on this. I think because it's such a critical issue, I would like to see more public involvement. I see where we have these projects here, but I would like for the public to have the opportunity to come in and say, well, what about my street? You know, or what about that street? And I think it's important to vest the public in the roadways, especially because it's such an important issue here. Not that it would really change a whole lot, but it sure could. You know, it could bring greater perspective. And again, remind us that, you know, it's not just the technical part that drives cities. While it's important, the heart and soul is the citizens who have to drive on this and the people who work, who have to drive on the roads too. I think it's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, we can certainly expand our CIP process in future rounds to include more public outreach and public input into that process. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
And I think when we get the 10-year, we're going to do a 10-year project list.
Yeah.
And we will take a shot at getting, you know, we'll estimate the 2.7 for the next 9 years. And we'll have all these different types of projects. And I think that'd be great that we get some public input on those because we can shift things around. Because everyone's going to want their street to be done. So there has to be some type of basis, and that's why the pavement management system is
So what
good.
would be what would be the reason for having the pavement management system if we have the community coming, the majority of the community come and say, I want my street fixed? But I have a question in regards to what you interpreted in regards to what the fundings, you know, what is there a way we can actually create analysis of what funds in the county and the state and the federal level were being used for different projects. So in the future, we already know that the county and the state and federal use this guideline that you could use for this project. So in the future, you're gaining access already up to what they're understanding. And unless policies change, could you do that or?
Yeah, we do have that for each program. There is very specific criteria on what is and isn't allowed there. Every once in a while, though, you will come across some of those programs where there might be a gray area or a question there. As the mayor mentioned, that's how CMAQ funding had been utilized to address some of the alleys there. And that's staff fighting for items within their community and ways to spend those dollars and proving that what the outcomes of those programs are supposed to be can be served by this project or set of projects. I think to answer the question or the comment about the public input, while the pavement management system is still critical data and absolutely needs to be there, I think it serves two items to have the public there. First and foremost, it's another opportunity for the public to be educated on the funds that are available and the constraints that they do have associated with those items. And then secondly, it's always, I think, the right thing to do to be transparent, to give the public that opportunity to give their feedback. But then when we are coming forward with an item and we're saying, here's what the data shows, and here's also what the public opinion is. And if there is some differences in that, then we can work to make sure that we're going to vet those two together as well as we can. Ultimately, when we're then delivering a recommended list to the council, and then that way you guys are, you have even more that's coming forward from staff for you to say, here's the data and here's the public input.
Would that be through a public hearing with a with a community or?
I think it could be done through a workshop.
Yeah, typically those are done through workshops when you start talking about those items. The transportation world gets ridiculously technical, but even so, staff can absolutely deliver the items to the public and get what I think is very valid feedback, even if the answer is, thank you very much for your input. Unfortunately, that program does not allow for certain improvements or projects. Still, just that communication, I think, and the trust and the transparency between the government agency and the public, I think, if nothing else, is going to be appreciated and will yield in a better list overall.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I don't know if this is a valid question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Code enforcement, would they be able to give some type of data? Because I know we have ordinances, right? We just passed an ordinance of these big trucks being parked in the neighborhood areas and things like that. So that's going to impact our streets. And so that's not something that maybe about, that's going to impact our streets. That's going to do that wear and tear of our streets even, faster. But I don't know if we keep any data. How many citations, when we implemented or when we updated the ordinance, so that way we know, like, gauging, right? And this year we did this ordinance and we had fewer vehicles parked or bigger trucks and stuff like that. So that might be something that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I recall, and I don't know whether it was or who it was, but I recall that there was someone that was on Zoom that talked about these or something to do with that. And so I'm sure that that's the data that we collected, because I remember they gave us projects that said these are priorities.
Yeah, the payment management system is talked about typically multiple times throughout the year, and it's consistently tracked and updated by staff. So it's certainly a term that you will hear utilized because it is used as some of the major data behind transportation decisions.
Thank you. Did anybody from the public have any input on this item tonight? Have anybody on Zoom on the phone? That will bring it back. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Or with the programming activities for said projects? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next item, consider the termination of the city's current contract with the County of Fresno and enter into a new agreement with the Fresno County Fire Protection District. Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'll give you a quick report here. Since 2011, the city has contracted our fire dispatching services through Fresno County and their EMS Communications Center. That being said, over the last several years, our partnership with the fire district, County Fire, has evolved and has grown. And just this past year, we've had over almost 300 interactions between the two departments, either us responding into their area or them responding into our area. Are, the closest apparatus to a lot of their surrounding county responsibilities, and they provide us with our third closest engine and next to closest engines when we have a house fire, things like that. So our partnership is really important. The concern being with this growth and these increasing calls is there's a little bit of a hitch between the two communication centers in that they don't necessarily, our communication center right now doesn't necessarily know exactly where County Fire, the district's fire engines are at. So as an example, when we do have a fire or accident, say at Mountain View 99, which is the city's area. However, engine 83 is a quarter of a mile away. So we have an agreement. They assist us there. They're going to be the closest, obviously. But our dispatch doesn't necessarily know if that engine's in quarters. They have to call. Or when we have a house fire and engine 83, our next closest engine, they have to call them. So they have to coordinate with one another. What that does create is a potential for a delay or a miscommunication of some nature where they're. So as we have developed this relationship with the county and look to increase that partnership and maximize our regional potential with fire resources, and that potentially being a concern, we decided that it would be in the best interest to move to the district for dispatching service. That is what is before tonight, is the new agreement with district to dispatch our fire resources. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks for your report. Anybody have any questions for Fire Chief Peterson?
Chief, I'm just a little confused. Okay. You're contracted with the Fresno County or the County of Fresno Dispatching Service currently.
Correct.
Okay. And now you want to contract, you're saying it's best in our best interest to contract with Fresno or the fire district.
Correct.
Are they still, are they county or are they?
Yes, it can be. It is a little bit confusing, especially when I refer to them as county fire, because that's just what we've always referred to them as. But the county of Fresno
Same thing.
manages the EMS Communications Center. So that's the county of Fresno's responsibility. They will continue. We've had a great partnership with them. I in no way want to reflect any kind of a negative impression upon their services. They will continue to partner with us for EMS dispatching our ambulances. The county of Fresno contracts with CAL FIRE for the Fresno County Fire Protection District. So I hope that clarifies it a little
Wow,
bit. So it's
this is
the-
right up there with a pension obligation
It
bond.
is. It's the Fresno County Fire Protection District that is responsible for fire resources within the county. And they contract with CAL FIRE, provide those resources.
And you're more in line with CAL FIRE. You're more in line with them in terms of them because they are the third closest agency after
Correct.
Kingsburg and Fowler.
Correct. The third and even potentially the fourth, they have engines at Mountain View and Golden State, and they have an engine now in Parlier, and they have an engine out at McCall and American.
So you need to interact with them more than you need to interact with this current dispatch service, which doesn't communicate with them all that well.
They communicate with one another, but there is that hitch. So they don't.
Not as smooth
see
as
it.
this one.
So on their computer screens, when they're dialing things up, they don't always know where those county fire.
And yet
engines
they're
are at.
supposed to be in Selma sometimes because, Selma's out in other areas and We
Correct,
have
they do
mutual
come
aid
in,
agreement.
they do come in to cover us if
They won't
say
know.
both of our fire engines or all three of our resources now are on other calls. They cover the city for us. And like I've said, the main use is for fires. And when we have to partner for a residential fire, they are our next closest resource. And it's very important to have that quick communication, that understanding of where all of those resources are at. Our
Because they're
partnership-
calling that dispatch themselves. You're just eliminating the middleman.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
And you know, our partnership is continuing to grow. We're constantly having meetings, again, to figure out how to best utilize all the resources that are available. You will likely see in the coming months a enhanced auto aid agreement with them that will, you know, increase the ability for them to come in and assist us and for us to go out and assist
What's
them.
the
And
cost
this is all
difference?
part of that.
What's the money difference?
I believe it was right around $11,000 increase to go
To
to the
change.
district for dispatching services.
Okay.
And it was budgeted in this year's budget.
Okay.
Plan in mind.
It was budgeted. And then, but the response time, the 60 seconds on the contract at page 102, both services meet that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No performance issues, just
No, just
one of those hitch things, just communication.
it's just
make it a little
with
more
the
efficient.
increased level of work that we're doing with them on the fire side.
On the fire
it
side only.
Makes the most sense to have them dispatch our fire resources.
Council have any questions?
More for future, and I'm probably thinking way ahead. But with the new fire station, is that something that possibly we could bring back to our, like have a dispatch there? I know, like I said, this is probably.
That's a great question. It is something that I actually spoke with Acting Chief Garza about as we started to look into these different ideas of what we can do for dispatching. So we have had those communications. It would likely be back through PD again. But you know, at this point, it would be likely a more significant cost because we would have to address a personnel.
It would cost more than that
Hiring of
11,000
personnel
difference.
to support
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You would have to hire people to be in the dispatch. It makes sense to have it in-house, ultimately. Speaking of, that's a good question on the City of Fowler. When I was going by the training center, I saw you on Saturday. I saw you were doing some exercises and you had a City of Fowler fire truck there. Was Fowler participating or was the city taking a look at the fire truck to see who wanted to buy it in the future?
There were several members of Fowler that came down to participate in that training session.
Okay, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
that would be a good idea for now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because as the public knows, right, City of Fowler, the council voted to change their fire provider to CAL FIRE. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
They won't have a local fire department anymore.
That is my understanding that if that meets final approval, I believe that will be implemented this week.
Which means there might be some material and there might be some firefighters from Fowler that might be looking in the future. Okay. Just on a contract basis, City Attorney Lerner, the termination clause in this new contract is non-existent as opposed to the termination clause with the other one, which is pretty good, right? 90 days for no cause, 30 for cause. But can that be cleaned up? Because if there's a problem with this new one, it looks like it's gonna be hard to unwind that until the end of the agreement without some room for disagreement.
Yeah, you could always approve it subject to me adding a termination provision in there if you wanted to, or you can ask
Like
for
a
it to come
60 or
back.
90 day, just because if this happens again, I mean, then you've got a mechanism in there.
You
that
want
doesn't
something similar
exist.
than 90 days. This is in the original contract.
Doesn't that seem clean? I mean, just something that spells it out. Chief Peterson?
I'm sure that if you were to vote to accept, as the city attorney said, accept the agreement with the provision that we add that in there, I don't believe that would be a problem.
Great.
60 days would be fine. And to be perfectly honest,
For no
even with the
cause.
90-day, with the good relationships.
Because it's
that
90
we
with this
have,
one right now and there's no
They're
problem.
not even holding us to that.
They're not.
No. no,
Because you're staying with them on the EMS and it's
and we
not
have
like you're
a
going
great
anywhere.
relationship with them and they understand.
It's
you
just
know,
good to
what we're
spell it
doing,
out though in writing legally, just in
Sure,
case.
I don't see that to be.
Never know. And then 30 days for no cause, and then maybe 60 days per cause. Okay.
Well, whoever makes the motion, if they could add that provision in there.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Okay. Is there a motion
I'll make the motion
with the
with
modification,
the modification to include the
termination clause
determination clause at 60 days
for no cause,
For
And-
no cause.
for no cause
and then 30 for
and
cause?
30 for cause.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Actually, the other way around,
The other way around.
30 for no
30
cause,
for cause and
60.
30 for no cause.
30 for cause, and 60 for no cause, right?
My
Right.
second step.
Second by Councilmember Trejo. Could you call the roll, please? Thank you. for that. That was
Councilmember
confusing.
Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next item, consideration of a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Michael Bellier Consulting for the purpose of evaluating SB 1383. Report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is with regard to services that the city is looking to procure from Mr. Michael Bellier Consulting. As you are aware, Waste Management's contract for trash collection services expires in June of 2024. And we want to be able to have sufficient time to conduct an adequate RFP process to be able to find assuming it's a new hauler, it doesn't necessarily have to be, find a new hauler and help that transition without running up into any time constraints. Mr. Michael Bellier is very experienced with this type of matter, having assisted various other cities around the valley, including most recently, I believe, Reedley. He's very well versed on all the new laws with regard to organics recycling, particularly SB 1383. One of the things that he will be assisting the city with is renegotiating Waste Management's current contract to be able to address some of the new laws that were not in place when the existing franchise agreement was signed about 9 years ago now. And so it's necessary to go back into that contract and address some of the additional costs that have come up as a result of SB 1383 and some of the previous recycling laws that have been passed. So Mr. Bellier is going to help with that. And then we're hoping just after the fall or early in 2023 that we can start the RFP process for a new trash hauler. So we are recommending, staff is recommending that the council approve this agreement with Mr. Michael Bellier, which has already been budgeted for in the approved fiscal year 22-23 budget.
Thank you for your report. Does council have any questions for the city manager regarding this item? Do we have any input from anyone in the public tonight who has anything they'd like to say about this issue? We have anybody on Zoom or on the phone? Is Mr. Bellier available if we have any questions?
We did not request him to be in attendance tonight.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to council. Okay, so it seems like we're kind of putting two issues together here, and maybe they go together. I know that the SB 1383 requires a lot of additional work on the city part for compliance purposes. I also know that, or I also listened at the meeting when they said that there were two years would be non-enforcement and more educational. Is Waste Management taking advantage of that 2-year kind of runway so that it can get in compliance? What's been the experience been so far?
For the most part, they've been doing outreach to those entities that would fall under the new law for organics recycling. I don't believe it's non-enforcement. I believe it's really when we start the 2 years is sort of a grace period when you actually start seeing fines and things like that. But the state CalRecycle is already requesting for reports and audits of who is complying, who has waivers, what the, guidelines of those waivers, the city's process for approving waivers is. And so we are, CalRecycle is very much using this grace period to make sure that when that 2 years comes up, that everybody knows what the compliance requirements are. So it really comes down to waste management not having the flexibility within the current agreement to be able to spend the additional time and costs and things like that to really fully implement SB 1383 on our behalf. Ultimately, it's our responsibility as the city. But whatever we implement with Waste Management's current agreement is going to have to be carried over to the new agreement anyway. So it's, we're doing the work ahead of time with regard to the organics recycling, but it's going to have to be done anyway.
So in terms of the contract with Waste Managed, the current one, I didn't see that in this packet tonight. I'm sure there is one. But that would be helpful in the future when the changes get proposed for that. Two, what is, speaking of from the last topic, what's the termination clause in there? Is there, let's say that this goes south on the 1383 and it doesn't work out with Waste Management. Is there a mechanism in that contract to terminate that contract with Waste Management, or does it have to run for the full 10 years?
I believe the clause is termination by mutual consent, but I will have to verify.
Okay. So that makes it a true 10-year unless there's cause?
There is,
breach,
certainly for cause and breach, but there is also an automatic 10-year renewal clause at the discretion of both parties to be able to renew that automatically. And I think it's city manager's approval, but at the end of the day, it's really city council's approval to be able to extend that agreement. But as far as termination, I believe it's mutual agreement unless there's cause.
so this consultant isn't being hired necessarily to come in and find ways to terminate that contract and bring on and do a bidding process for a new waste contractor. See, that's where I get two different issues, right? You
Gotcha.
got one where we're complying with that 1383, and two, where another contractor is where the RFP is being written already for a 2024 expiration. And it looks like two separate issues kind of being conflated with one here. And I think the two go together at some point, but not completely.
Right. I mean, they are, it's dealing with waste management on the SB 1383, making sure that the city is incorporating all the necessary terms into the existing agreement so that we are compliant. And this gentleman has worked with waste management in other communities for the same purpose. So he has that relationship established already. With regard to the RFP, the city is not, as far as I'm aware, is not actively looking to terminate the existing agreement. What we want to do is make sure that we have the RFP drafted well in advance and issued well in advance of that termination date, or that expiration date, I should say, so that, let's say, if there is a new hauler that's selected in January of 2024, we have those 6 months to allow for a transition to a new hauler. Whereas if we wait any longer, we could be running up against that expiration date and suddenly we're out, we don't have any service, or we're not contracted to any service. So it's really giving us a little bit of runway to explore all the options adequately that are out there. Because at the end of the day, these new laws have really upended a lot of the operations of these haulers, and they've had to be flexible and incorporate new, ways of managing trash and organics and things that they did not foresee when these 10-year contracts were entered into. So, there's a possibility that we could end up with better rates, or there's a possibility that we could end up with higher rates but better service. We just have to see what's out there. Ultimately, the goal is to provide the best service to the community possible. And I think looking at all of our options is going to achieve that goal.
I mean, I get it. If Waste Management came back and said, we can't do it with 1383, we just can't provide that service, then the city would absolutely need to go and look for another provider that could do the 1383 services. I don't foresee that happening, but
We would have to let them get out of the contract.
that's why I keep going back to the contract. It's important to see what's going on in that. And it sounds like it's written in a way where there could be some issues there. So it's going to be important to,
I'll follow up on the exact termination clause.
and this person is well-versed in these contracts also, right? So he can apply some advice, give some advice to the city
Absolutely.
about that. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
That, the correction on 117 prior to the issuing of the RFP, those by 2022.
Correct. That's correct. Minor typos. Thank you.
Want to make a motion with that correction?
I'll make a motion with that correction.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 6, consideration of appointments to various city commissions.
Mayor and council members before you tonight. Provided to you in the past is for council, and what is attached on page 137 is for council to consider not only the incumbents that have reapplied for the various commissions, but also to take a look at the names on the applications that we have had on file and received most recently for you to discuss. I think what council has done in the past is review the information that is provided to you with attachment A, as well as documents related to attachment B, which would include the incumbent commissioner interest forms, as well as the applications. Council has considered these items and then decided to vote each individual by roll call vote.
Okay, thank you for your report. Does council have any questions? Does anyone in the public have anything they would like to say at this time about the commissions? We have anybody on Zoom or on the phone? Okay, bring it back to you. Do we just want to go through each group? Is that good? Okay. The Planning Commission, there's no one who's applied. And Mandeep wants to reapply. Is there any,
Make a
do
motion to approve Mandeep.
we even need to do a motion? Should, City Attorney Lerner, should we?
I
go
think
through a
last time
formal
you
vote?
did do
Okay,
formal votes.
even when there's no vacant, okay.
Correct.
So there's a motion for Mandeep Singh. Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho, Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, Recreation and Community Services. We have 3 members, 3 vacancies, and 1 person applying. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve Ken Robertson.
Okay. You mean Yolanda Torres?
Yolanda Torres.
Oh, he's out.
So
Can reapply and there are 3 vacancies.
thank you. So Ken Robeson has given us information or has signified that he is still interested. However, he is out of the state and has not turned in his document. But he did state that he would like council to consider him. Is that confirming that's correct, Michael?
That is correct. I couldn't quite hear myself. I called him Friday. I believe he said Utah, but he wants in.
Out of the country.
Wants it.
How we put it.
Country of California. All right. So there's a motion to, do we want to go one at a time? Is that the best way to do that? Okay.
That's fine.
Both. Is there a motion to approve Ken Robinson and Yolanda Torres since we have more vacancies than people are applying?
I'll make a motion.
Is
to
there a
approve
second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
And just to clarify, it is to reappoint Ken Robeson and to appoint Yolanda Torres.
Right.
And would we be appointing, forgive me for interrupting, but would we be appointing Yolanda Torres to the term that is expiring or to the term that is going to expire next year? So for a full term or partial term?
Well, right next year, huh? What do you think? The next till 23?
So for a full term?
Yeah, it goes till 6/30/2023. The other one's,
So the
Wow.
ones that are dated 6/30/2022, once council approves them, they will go to 6/30/2024.
oh, got it. So the 2022s will go to 2024. The 23 will go to
23,
Yeah,
and
I
council
say
will
give her
consider
the-
next year.
have to do it mode again. Okay,
So we're doing a motion with both altogether.
Both
Right.
of them.
I
for
just
2
need-
years.
I just need clarification for both for 2 years. So they both will expire in 2024. Thank you.
Yeah, that's for 2 years.
Okay. And the motion was made by Councilmember Guerra and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Cho. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
No.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Personnel Commission, there are no openings. Did everybody, well, there are no openings. There's nobody up.
I'm just
There's really
stating for the
nothing to do.
record that we have one person on file, just for the record.
Got it. So there's nothing to do on this because there are no vacancies. Okay, Pioneer Village. There are 2 vacancies. There are 4 people who reapplied and 1 applied, Joel Pador, who applied for 1 of the vacancies. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Is that to appoint Joel Fedor and all the people who
And all the one
reapplied?
that are reapplied.
Okay, call a roll, please.
Just to confirm, are we appointing Joel for the expired term that will then?
Full term.
Full term. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Measure S Oversight Committee, there's 1 vacancy and 1 person applying, and that's Yolanda Torres. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a
to-
second? I'll make the second. Call a roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
No.
Councilmember Trujillo.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Okay, so there are 4 people on the Measure S Oversight Committee. Okay, staff reports, start with our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few updates. Good news with regard to our pension obligation bond validation process. We did receive approval from the court for that, and we're currently at the tail end of the 30-day appeal period. So if anybody, wanted to appeal that, they have, I think June 21st was the validation date. So just a couple of more days, and then we can start looking at our financial advisor, municipal advisor is looking at options and looking at the rates currently to see where they stand. If the council wanted to, move forward with obtaining or issuing pension obligation bonds, they're going to give us a report on what the rates look like now, or whether we should wait for them to come back down. So I'll bring that information as soon as the appeal period is over, which would be the next council meeting. We are seeing rates still fluctuate a little bit, but stabilizing nonetheless. So we're hopeful. We also, I would like to announce formally to the public, we did issue a press release that we have selected a new chief of police for the city of Selma after a thorough recruitment process. I'm happy to announce that Chief Rudy Alcaraz from the city of Fowler has accepted the position with the city of Selma. So we're very excited to have him on board as of August 1st. And we will have a swearing in ceremony for him at the August 1st city council meeting. So everyone is invited to meet our new chief. I would like to, I'm a little ahead of myself here, but given that Michael's last working day is tomorrow, I would like to thank him in front of the council for all the work that he's done over the years. We have asked him back for the August 15th city council meeting for a formal recognition prior to his formal retirement date. But I did want to just thank Michael for all the years of service to the city of Selma. He's done a great job, and I think the community really appreciates him, and it shows. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And we did celebrate another colleague's retirement. Engineer Will Blackwell from the fire department is technically still with the city, but also using his vacation time. So his last actual working day was last week on Friday. So thank you to Mr. Blackwell, who was with the city for 21 years, almost 21 years. And retired as an engineer. So thank you to Mr. Blackwell as well, and wish him best with his young family.
Nice, thank you. City Attorney Lerner,
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
thank you. Deputy City Manager Terry.
Nothing to report, Mayor Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting Finance Director Emily Boyd. Fire Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. A real quick report on illegal fireworks. I got some stats and whatnot. I'm sure all of you have felt the effects of dealing with that, and as frustrating as it is. First of all, I want to thank, well, first of all, we had patrols out from June 30th through July 1st. I'm sorry, June 30th, July 4th. And I want to thank the police department and the various officers that helped out, my staff and the various members of our department that helped out. But specifically, I'd like to thank Code Enforcement Officer Javier Vidro and our Fire Marshal Anthony Rivas, who were there every night from 6, 7 o'clock until 12, 1 o'clock patrolling. So they were out every night trying to enforce our ordinance and issue these citations. The 4th of July, we had probably the biggest patrol that I think I've ever been a part of. We had 10 separate units that were out, 4 police officers that were dedicated strictly to the patrol, code enforcement officer, myself, our fire marshal, and our 3 fire equipment, fire apparatus that were working that night. We're all out patrolling, trying to do the best we can to stop this. We did issue 42 citations throughout the event, which is only, I think, 2 less than what Fresno reported.
Wow.
So it does, tell you that we still have an issue, but we're out there attacking it, the
That's
best that we
42
can.
grand, right?
It is. And we had one resident, just
Lot
to
of
tell you
overtime.
the stubbornness and the issues that we did. We had one resident cited 3 times. On
Wow.
the 4th of July.
So was that a progressive fine? Was it 1,000 each time?
It was 1,000, 2,000, I think 2,500.
Wow.
It was effective, and we apologize for the frustration to the community. We know that it is very frustrating, but we were out there. And one fortunate note, we only had 2 fires within the city that were firework related. One of them, many of you saw the 3rd of July on our property across the street.
Where the new fire station is gonna go.
Yes.
How ironic is that?
It was, and it was firework related. And we had one off of Valley View and McCall on the night of the 4th that got into a backyard. Fortunately, no structures or anything like that were damaged. We assisted county with several fires out in their area. I apologize, the district. We assisted the district. And
Let's not get back into that.
It's not gonna make a difference with some of their fires. So those are our stats for the 4th of July season.
Thank you for that. And just a personal note, we were there at the 3rd of July fireworks, and we saw the fire department out constantly. And the same on the 4th of July. I probably heard more fireworks, more fireworks, sound like gunfire on the 4th than I did on the 3rd. And I know the enforcement effort is that true? Was there more usage on the 4th?
It's hard to say. It's really unique with the 3rd of July. The 3rd, it's everything around the high school.
Oh.
So it was really interesting. As we were expanded the patrol out, a lot of the staff was reporting that it was somewhat quiet around the rest
Yeah,
of the city.
The 3rd was quiet.
But it was just focused in those neighborhoods surrounding the high school. And then on the 4th, it went to the rest of
Everywhere.
the part of the city where those neighborhoods around the high school were somewhat
Quieter than the 3rd.
but it everywhere else. So it's kind of a unique dynamic with the 3rd of July celebration and where people are celebrating and lighting their fire.
Ours, but or
Yeah,
what
I-
are they called? Unmanned?
Yes,
unmanned UAVs,
there
yes.
were several of
I
them.
seen them, but like I said, I wasn't sure if they were ours or if they were just people around.
Other folks that were experimenting with theirs.
Thank you for that. Acting Police Chief Garza.
Good evening again, Mayor and Selma City Council members and members of the community of Selma. And UAVs is unmanned aerial vehicles. And I'll start with crime, significant updates. Patrol officers have been busy. However, crime has been relatively low. There is a slight increase in DUI arrests, which I strongly believe has to do with the low crime rate. Officers are actually able to go out and patrol when they're not getting calls for service, and they're able to do enforcement. The last major incident we had was the homicide, unfortunately, the homicide in June. However, that suspect is in custody. I did brief the council on that at the last council meeting. I will highlight that our mental health calls are still relatively high, unfortunately. Mental health is not a crime. However, it is a call for service. And when officers do respond to mental health calls, they do unfortunately take an officer away from the streets. However, it's very important that our officers respond to those calls, and we do have resources that we also deploy. And we're very fortunate to have our Kingsview, the mental health crisis workers, working out of our facility, which obviously, you know, it's not a dime to the city of Selma. So it's very valuable asset. And I know the mayor asked for a staffing level report. All shifts right now are at above minimum staffing. We currently have 3 officers out on industrial leave, which I think is important for you to know. It's just, you never know what can happen just, you know, in this line of work. There is 1 officer who's on military leave. He's been out on military leave since January. And he's actually out in Poland, and he's supporting the United States in regards to the war in Ukraine. So that's where he's at. And I don't know why I never mentioned that before, but that's where our officer, very proud of him. We do talk to him. He's fine. We do talk to his family. We currently have 5 vacant police officer positions. 2 officers recently departed from the agency. We did have 1 resign last week. He went over to the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, and he had committed to the Sheriff's Department prior to the raise in July. So he already had some plans to go over to that agency, and all his paperwork was already all finalized. We did have another officer. I know there was a comment in regards to Officer Yani departing. Officer Yani, everybody probably knows him here in Selma. It's like, if anybody's gonna arrest me, I want Officer Yani to arrest me. He's the nicest guy in the world. Officer Yani actually pursued another venture. He's no longer a police officer. He opened up his own restaurant, and he's venturing in the business of ownership of a restaurant. He's very excited. And
I wouldn't want to dine and dash on that restaurant.
yeah, so I mean, the customer service that he provided here in Selma, I told him, you provide that customer service, and buddy, you're gonna make a lot of money with that smile and with that charisma and all that spirit he has. So hey, he left. Well, he's gonna be missed, and we still miss him, and we are definitely impacted, but we wish him the best on his venture. We do have 1 police officer and 1 dispatcher who will be starting on Monday, July 25th. The amazing thing about these 2 employees coming in, 1 of the officers is actually coming from the Fresno Sheriff's Office. So it's kind of like we're swapping, and which is fine. We'll take them. And then number 2, the dispatcher is coming from the state. He's actually a former Selma dispatcher. So guess what? When he comes back, he's probably just gonna have to reacclimate, push enter a couple times. He's good to go. We're very, very blessed and fortunate to have this dispatcher coming over. He's very excited. He calls me every day. So we're pretty excited about that. So yeah, we did have some officers leave, but we're very fortunate, and we're headed in the right direction. We recently interviewed 11 police officer applicants and 3 dispatchers. And what do you know? We actually interviewed those applicants after July 1st. And it's just amazing what these flyers and this solicitation does. when you have all these great things happening in Selma. We were averaging about 2 to 3 interviews every 3 weeks. I mean, we'd expedite the interviews just because we wanted to put applicants in the hopper. Well, we had 11, which was really good. That's where we used to be in 2018, 2019. So we are on track. We are currently starting the background process on a few of those applicants. Unfortunately, not all of them will make it to the next step, but it's progress and it's great progress. As far as special events and activities, I made a comment the other day. You guys didn't pray hard enough because they had to reschedule our dispatch move to August 18th, but it's technicalities that has to deal with AT&T. It has nothing to do with us. So we're gonna pray again and cross our fingers that we get approved. They don't reschedule for the third time. And National Night Out, August 2nd at Lincoln Park. We are blasting that thing everywhere on every social media network. The Selma Unified has blasted that everywhere on their social networks. So we're hoping we get a lot of involvement from the community and participation. We have a lot of great activities planned. And this will probably be the last time as your acting chief up here, but I will tell you that I was honored and it was been a privilege. I learned a lot. And I will be going back to the commander position. However, I will tell you that we have not been at this level, 2 commanders and a chief, since 2019, 2020. But the caliber that you have in the leadership is amazing. The caliber has not been like this in over 30, 40 years. The administration now has, they're all educated. They all have their bachelor's degrees. They all have this training. I mean, versus the staff that used to have before that came in the 80s, maybe had like a 2-year degree. No other staff has had the 4. It's just amazing. But the caliber is phenomenal, and you will see that. And you're going to see that with the recruiting, the individuals we're recruiting, because like I told you, I know this chief coming in is not going to reduce his hiring standards. We've both talked about it and we're just on the same page. And, Chief Alcarez and I used to chase bad guys together, and we used to go to community meetings together, neighborhood watch, and we're just going to do it again. We're a lot older, but hey, it is what it is. But so I just leave you with that. I'm proud to serve the city of Selma, completed 22 years, July 5th. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Just want to say thank you for hanging in there, doing a really tough job the last year or so, and doing the admin and doing the acting chief and still chasing bad guys and knocking down doors. So thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you.
And Parks and Community Services, Mike Kirshner.
Mayor, I was Mayor City Council. I see Pastor Joe left, so appreciate his comments. Said for years, the hot weather keeps people out of the fireworks till about 8 p.m. This was the coolest weather I could ever remember. And at 5:30, before the chamber opened the gates, there was probably 60, 70 people. That's why the food booths did well, because people came out between 5:30 and 6:30. It was a nice, cool night. And Chief and I had a phone conversation that morning. We're kind of getting worried, too much wind and have a little concern with the fireworks, but it turned out to be great. So if we can get 88, 90-degree weather like it was about 5:30, then we'll get that early crowd. I did promote Home Depot. I would like to say it's been changed from July 23rd, this upcoming Saturday, to August 27th. They had a couple of challenges with some staffing, getting people working with COVID, and also some delays in materials that they're going to use for the senior center. You can't just get things shipped to you like you used to. So, but it is scheduled. It'll be Saturday morning, August 27th. We are looking for a few volunteers. I know we had some volunteers already lined up, city staff, to help them out. It'll be basically a full day project: painting, mini blinds, some other work, And just recently, after the last council meeting, they are donating a drinking fountain with the bottle. So that'll be very nice for the seniors here. So this is my second to last meeting. I will be here August 15th. So
Question for you.
yes.
The restroom doors at Schaefer Park. So what can be done to make those better? The people are complaining who use that, the women, they're not high enough. It's a safety issue. What can the city do about restroom doors?
Yeah,
Fixing
that's
that
been a
problem?
priority. That's been the number one list of the Recreation Commission. We had discussed actually installing new restrooms for the park and keeping those for the use for during the day. But the restrooms would be open for when there is a T-ball, girls softball, men's nights, but keeping the new restrooms locked. That's kind of the goal we're looking at. That's what we've been discussing. Those restrooms are 32 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the brick walls are about 4 feet high. So when you walk in, I will tell you, when you went to Brenlinger, when we first got those new restrooms at Brenlinger, and then the skate park, and then every park since, that's why we've gone to individual restrooms. Parents like individual restrooms. They feel safer. When they walk in, they can lock the door. You don't have to worry about who's in, who's coming in. So that definitely on my list when they give the new person, I'm willing to come back from my vacation time. I've spoken to the city manager, but that's been a priority for the commission, and we've talked about it. New
Sure,
restrooms is
sports
needed.
teams would pay an extra $1 or $2, just to pitch into the fund for the
Yeah,
restroom door fund. 'Cause it
Yeah,
seems
we had
like it's
talked-
a common problem.
that is a good philosophy. We had talked about that many years ago. It just never came to fruition. The city of Isaiah started a fee. They had an extra fee for every adult team, every youth team.
People,
And it
it's
went to
logical,
a,
right? They're using it.
yeah, it went to a capital improvement project just for that certain park. And then, so that is something to consider, adding a few extra dollars to every fee you do.
Well,
Other
I want
questions?
to just say thank you for all your service. I know we get another crack at you in a few weeks, but
Yeah.
it's your last formal
Yeah, I will be
meeting.
here through Wednesday, actually. I got the date, so I'll be here 2 more days. Yeah,
Couple
but I
more
appreciate
mornings.
it. So yeah, I'll talk to you further on the 15th.
Sounds good.
I do appreciate everything with the city's done for me, so thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Right, with that, we'll go on to council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
I don't have very much because I wasn't able to attend the fireworks show. My stepfather-in-law had passed away just a couple days before that, so everybody was at my house visiting with my. And I just wanted to say thank you, Garza. Great job, all your hard work, help, overall. Our fires down, I guess, I don't know, or being out there, having the staff out there. Not gonna get emotional because I didn't work with you very long, but but thank you for everything. I know you did a really good job with the whole homeless coalition. That is one of my passions. I recently had to. I recently was working on a home key project, and the individuals that I helped. I mean, it broke my heart to have to move them from where they were staying to go somewhere else. But and that was in a big scale, right? That was 94 units that I had to vacate in a month. And so I can only imagine the work that you guys do, have here. So thank you so much for that. I don't have very much other than I'm part of the Selma Catholic Women's Club, and we are having our very first wine tasting event after COVID. So it's on July 29th. It's a Friday. So I have tickets. The tickets are $25, and the event's from 6 to 9 p.m. It's going to be at the St. Joseph's Catholic, St. Joseph's Hall, Daniel Lopez Hall, Monsignor Daniel Lopez Hall. And I have tickets available. It's going to be a great event. The proceeds go to church activities, and also a big chunk of it goes to our fundraisers for, our scholarships for our seniors. And like I said, we haven't been able to do a lot of fundraising because of. So I have tickets.
Thank you. Councilman Trio?
First of all, of course, Commander Garza, I want to congratulate you and thank you for all the hard work you did. I'm really proud of you. We've had conversations and, you know, I thank you for everything you've done. Mike, thank you, Mike, and we'll be talking soon. Hopefully we can get together and have lunch and, you know, and go back to all the thoughts and things you've done. I want to thank, I want to apologize and I want to thank Chief Peterson because I know my wife walks the neighborhood and I know my wife is on you a lot, but it's because we have two big dogs that we really love. We love them and we really I want to make this real clear. The third and the fourth, even though she said it was loud, it was really quiet in my neighborhood. And I want to thank you for that because that means the police department, the code enforcement, that means that we are really doing something. And as I walked, the neighbors were telling me, hey, it's gotten quieter. And that means a lot because that means that the community is working together. And thank you because everybody noticed it. So I apologize, but I thank you for all the hard work. I thank the police department and code enforcement for that. And I also want to, I don't have the club's name, but I want to mention the fact that by my office, I noticed a lot of banners. So I really appreciate those banners out on the Golden State. I see the military people and that's awesome. So I commend you guys for that. I thank the council for asking me and pointing me to go and represent the city of Selma for the enhanced facility district. It's funny because we canceled July 5th's meeting. So it seems like a way huge amount of time that we were gone. But I think that the city in itself is working really hard on improving the caliber of life for the future because of all the investment the city staff and the city council is doing. I think that, that was part of it by sending us. And I want to say congratulations to our city manager for representing as well out there. I also want to say that Assembly Arambula did a very fantastic job on the presentation. Senator Caballero also gave a good presentation, and the city of Selma is really blessed to have them. Senator Caballero, if she wins, will be blessed, will be representing us. So for that, and that's all I have.
Right, thank you. Councilmember Guerra?
Okay, I do want to just echo Acting Chief Garza, what an outstanding job you did. And I want to thank you for everything you have done for our city. And I'm glad that you're still here and I know you're going to still do an outstanding job. And Mike, I know I don't want to get emotional either because I hate goodbyes, but I know that you're going to, I wish you the best on your new venture and, I'm jealous you're retiring. But you enjoy your retirement because that's what it's about. Chief Peterson, I want to tell you, I want to give a great compliment to our public safety. On July 3rd, when that fire happened right there on the field, we had another council member from another city, Sanger, and the response when they ran out there to see the fire, he was so impressed on how quickly the fire trucks got there and he was very, he said this was dynamic, just the compliment. And, that's what our city's about, when things happen, people really see the true Selma, and those are the compliments that we get all the time, especially with our public safety. So I'm proud of you guys, and that's near and dear to my heart. Also the Veterans Plaza, that's another one. We get people that come from out of town just to come and take photos there because they said no other city has that. So, we're proud. We're really proud as council and our staff that we make things happen, and July 3rd, that was outstanding event. And it was great. The weather was great. Everything was great. The music was phenomenal. And so I want to, again, everybody coming together, the chamber did an outstanding job. So this is exactly, what we look forward to. And people are being, they came from all over. They were just not Selma people. These people came from all over. So I just want to thank everyone, our staff, what a great job you guys all did. And I'm really proud to hear those wonderful compliments. So thank you all. Oh, and then just, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I do have one issue in regards to, do we know when the blinking lights on Whitson and 99 or Golden State, are they going to be fixed, repaired? Do we have a date?
Unfortunately, we don't have a date for that just yet. The issue is the module inside of it is on back order. Those are so old that getting them is extremely complicated. And the one vendor that we could find that did have access to them had them at the time that they were ordered 8 weeks behind. And they're now saying that looks like that will likely even be delayed. Unfortunately, I can say that in this year's budget, though, we did have included within the approved budget dollars to replace 8 cabinets. And so we're moving forward with getting those updated and current so that we shouldn't have these type of issues in the future. And in addition to that, we also have staff that's already scheduled to go for training on the updated software items when they are installed. So in the future, when these type of instances may happen, we should not find ourselves in the same type of predicament that we're in right now.
Thank you. Okay. That's it for me.
Pro Tem Cho.
I guess I want to repeat myself too. I want to thank Commander Garza for your hard work during this last few, years almost, and Chief Peterson for the 3rd of July, and Michael for the 3rd of July. I'm gonna miss Michael here. Thank you so much. He's always been really helpful for my Lions Club. So you can always come back and help us with Thanksgiving, though. Yeah, and 3rd of July was a fantastic event, and it was really nice to see the community out again enjoying themselves. It took a while to get there. I did attend a COD meeting, started at 5:30, ended at 11:30. I think the mayor owes me one.
I attended the week before, which went long too.
Long too.
Oh, man.
The big topic was, we're supposed to be renewal of the Measure C, which provides the local and neighborhood street repair and maintenance. That's what I asked a question earlier. But Fresno Mayor Dyer gave an alternate plan to do some changes, and actually the vote that night did pass. And that took away some money from the county and gave it to the cities. So actually, I don't know how the next step is, but that passed that night with voting. So I don't know where it goes. Does it go to ballot or that part I didn't understand.
Put it on the ballot. You voted no, right?
Yes, I did vote it no, yes. Since I was brand new at it, I did not see that I could understand it because he just put that project up within 2 weeks and presented it. Not all of us saw that. And so I think I and lady from Reedy.
Mendota,
Mendota?
Yeah.
I thought Reedy.
San Joaquin.
Okay. Yeah, we couldn't say yes because we didn't understand it because it wasn't in front of us. But I think some of the other, mayors and his official have seen it. So there was only 2 no votes. 3? Okay, I missed one then. 4? Okay.
Who was the fourth?
Yeah, Reedley, I knew
Oh, Reedley
Reedley.
was
Yeah,
one?
I didn't hear the other 2 then, yeah. But like, we would get an extra $8.4 million with this plan if it passes. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Measure C actually covers 2 areas that we really need to get the handle on, which is 99 Highway 43 and the Floral Interchange. That is part of this project on this Measure C. So I think basically we do need to promote that and renew it. And the other major part is Mountain View and Highway 99. That's another interchange that they want to work on. So that's all included in this project. Okay, and then on, I attended another graduation for the Central Valley Training Center. This is the 5th one, and there was like 14 graduates on this one, and 2 women was in there. Very proud of them. On Saturday, I went out with the group led by Leslie Nelson. It was a Clean Up Selma campaign. So she just asked for people for 1 hour to go out and clean, wherever. We started at Rite Aid. And so I cleaned, I guess, the railroad track area. I need a lot more bags than just one. So, but I couldn't fill it so much. I had to lug it back. So I did my hour, and it takes it's going to take a lot more effort. Also, I went to a service for a longtime Selma citizen. Is Mr. Tad Araki. He passed away at 97. His family has been in Selma since the 1940s. And he had a farm and a business called Selma Ag Supply. Pretty far back, yeah. His family was in the Japanese relocation camp in Arizona. After he came back, Mr. Rocky came out and he joined the U.S. Army. Okay, he was a really proud vet. So, how I knew him is his daughter and his 2 sons are the same age as me and my 2 brothers. So, and the daughter was one of my college roommates. So I was really fortunate to see him. And like I say, he was a long time Selma citizen. And on Wednesday this week, we will have a chamber mixer. It's going to be at the Selma Auto Mall. So everybody's welcome, 5 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Congrats to the acting chief Garza. You did a great job. Thank you so much for that. Mike, gonna miss you. Thank you for all your service, all your work, but I know you'll be around. I know where you live. Chief Peterson, thank you for a great job, an impossible task, and you brought it off. You really did. Thank you for that. You made July 3rd and 4th bearable. I will say though that the Second Chance Animal Shelter did get a bunch of dogs. They have a lot of dogs and they are past the brim. They changed a few years ago when I was still involved in the shelter. We changed it to a no-kill shelter. So, people can rest assured that if their dogs got out and they were picked up by the animal control officer, they are still at the animal shelter. And there are a lot of dogs still there, and hopefully people will go over and take a look. Speaking of animal shelters, the new Fresno Animal Care Center opened, which is going to be amazing. It's 100 dog kennels, 50 cat kennels. It's a great facility to show the level of commitment in Fresno to their animals. It's a $22 million project and it has 185 employees. So hopefully our city can leverage that and start a partnership or a relationship with the Fresno Animal Care Center because they may have some excess capacity there. I attended a Selma Cemetery District meeting and their annual budget was discussed. I want to say thank you to the district and the board of the directors there for making sure this year that people kept a respectful access to the cemetery on the 3rd of July. In the past, people have gone out, have cookouts on people's loved ones. They just defile graves and it's wrong. It's wrong to do that. And the board stepped up and they made sure that there was good security. They actually had security there to keep people from misusing and abusing what should be a sacred space. So I thought that was a real step forward, and it's great for the new board that did that for Selma Cemetery District. There was a new homelessness action plan approved by the Fresno County Board of Supervisors to reduce the number of sheltered individuals by 8% from 2020 levels over the next 2 years. That's a very ambitious plan. And hopefully this will help Selma with Selma's homeless population as well. When the county gets serious like that, it can only benefit Selma as well, because I'm sure there's some overlap between the county unsheltered folks and the people who end up in Selma. Another one is AB 1221 requires all bartenders. This is for the restaurant owners in the crowd with bars. All bartenders to receive mandatory training now to reduce DUIs and to raise awareness of how to spot drunk drivers in restaurants. And the stats behind it are, 10,000 people have been killed in drunk driving incidents just for the tabulation period of 2009 to 2018. I know Acting Chief Garza is very serious about reducing the number of drunk drivers because that's a needless death and it happens way too often. And I think that's a real step forward where the Assembly and the state Senate actually helped us. They didn't vote to suspend the gas tax, which didn't help us, which they easily could have done with a budget surplus, but at least they passed that. So that's good. Let's hope they pass the other important bills. Great call from State Senator Hurtado. With her sponsorship, she got us $4.5 million for the new fire station, which is going to be great. That's going to get us moving in the right direction on the new fire station. Really appreciate State Senator Hurtado. I've known her a long time, and she's always been an advocate for our city and our area, and that's much appreciated to have an ally like that in the state capitol. I will leave you on a Roger George fishing column quote. He is a fishing columnist for the Fresno Bee. He says, "I've seen many anglers try to improve their skills without putting in the work by copying other anglers' secret techniques, their lure areas, or tactics." He says, "Stay in your lane, run your race, and lean through the finish tape. Be an original, work hard, stay focused, stay in a learning mode, ask questions of those you respect, and never give up." With that, we'll move on to oral communications for the evening. Do we have any?
One more time. I just wanted to thank the Selma Business Coalition and the City of Selma Public Works Department for putting up the military banners. My daddy's is up there, and it was very emotional for our whole family to see that go up. We lost my dad 2 years ago, and he was our hero. He was a Korean War veteran. He received the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star, and so he was our very own hero. And to see his banner up there was just very special for us. And I wanted to thank everybody who had a hand in that. And I would just like to ask maybe if Public Works could trim the trees a little bit down Whitson so we could see the banners a little bit better. But it's amazing. And thank you, everybody who was involved.
(1057) Mill Street, Rose Robertson, a breath of fresh air. It was very pleasant to have you be in place of the chief of police. Thank you for that. I look forward to Chief Alcaraz hopefully putting on there to have some DUIs. It's very much needed. I'm amazed that the city of Selma hasn't had one in probably 4 years, unfortunately. I don't know who makes those decisions on that, but deaths are so important that shouldn't be left out. So let's hope Rudy will make that happen. Excuse me, Chief Alcaraz. Also, if I'm correct, was there some American Rescue Plan money allocated for our parks now? Why couldn't you guys get some of that money and put some doors on those bathrooms at Schaefer Park for the little girls, the females, to have some privacy in those bathrooms? Over and over again, we hear this about the bathrooms. And if we all know, little girls shouldn't have to have, the time when you got to go to the bathroom to not want to go because there's no privacy. This is a lot of parents that are concerned about this and that it hasn't been done. I appreciate that you're going to have, maybe some new bathrooms coming for the new director, which is great, but that doesn't mean little girls or parents should have to wait another 10 years to have some privacy. It's really easy to have some doors insert, just like the Selma Girls Softball League got creative and put their own little doors in. So please maybe do something about that, because we don't want girls girls that want to play with softball not play because of the bathrooms. Thank you.
Comments at this time? we have anybody on Zoom? Just further to Ms. Salas's comments, you know, I attended a funeral for Manuel Dominguez. He was the last World War II veteran surviving in Selma, who got the Bronze Star. And it took him 60 years to get his Bronze Star. It's a great story. I won't go into it now. But he also has a banner up on Whitson, and I fully agree with trimming those trees because you can hardly see his banner, and it's well worth seeing all the banners of those brave individuals. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Okay, we're adjourned.